Today we are going for a drive and we are going to talk about what it meant for me to buy this Nissan Z. Ooh, kind of rhymes. All right, get the music off. We're gonna get in sport mode here. Consulting the notes. So those of you know who've been following my channel, I just recently purchased this 2024 Nissan Z, and it had an emotional impact on me that I did not think it was going to have. And there's a whole story behind that. You know, I got in the car at the dealership, and I'm going to get to this at the end, but when I first sat in the car and I'm getting ready to drive it off the lot, like, I just started crying. And I mean, not like bawling, but I was crying. Like, it just been such a long road. And, you know, for my wife and I and for our family, life hasn't always been easy. I've made a tremendous amount of mistakes in my life. If you could do a bell curve, most of them fell in my early 20s. Of course, I was a rambunctious teenager as well, but most of my large mistakes fell in my early 20s, and a lot of them were actually car related, which is why the car is such an interesting element as it's playing into my life now at 45 years old. I'm going to talk a lot in another video about the mistakes I made specifically that were car related, but I was in with a crowd that was not good. I was in with a crowd that was living a life that was different than the one that I had chosen. I had already gotten married and was settling down and starting a new family, and I joined a crowd of people who wanted to be around cars all the time. And I almost lost my marriage because of it. We're going to head down to Wrightsville Beach, by the way. My car journey back in the day ended when, like I said, I owned a series of cars. I had, I don't know, if I were to count them, let's see, there was the Jeep Wrangler, into a 2000 Camaro Z28, into a 2002 Camaro Super Sport, into a 2002 Mustang GT, into a 2003 Mach 3, 2003 Mach 1, Mustang Mach 1, Azure Blue, and then there was that into a 2003 Lancer Evo 8. I blew the motor in the Evo 8 at 3,200 miles, and I was really pissed at the time, but looking back, that was probably my fault. I had done a lot of, there was this boost bypass mod that you could do on the Evo 8s that essentially took them from running, what were they, in the factory, you know, 12 PSI, and it would run like 28 PSI. And of course I didn't tune the car or anything. And I think that I was just asking for trouble for that car. But when that car blew up, it started just a really bad, tough cycle of events for me in terms of, you know, that car ended up actually getting repoed because I couldn't afford, at 22 years old, I couldn't afford to fix it. You know, it was a $15,000-$20,000 repair, and that was in 2003. So think of that as like a $30,000-$40,000 repair now. I didn't have the money to do it, and so I stopped making payments on it. The bank eventually came and got it, ruined my credit for a long time, got into some other trouble, almost lost my marriage, and you know, cars were not a good thing for me. Please turn left. Please turn left. Thank you. Woo! All right. I feel a little bit better. Talking about all this depressing stuff, and then you just do this. Ugh. Okay. So, because of that, I guess I should say, in 2003, 2004, and then some other stuff that I'll talk about later happened in 2006. And, I really didn't get to start life the way, your typical guy who goes to, I did go to college, but the way that your typical guy goes to college and then gets a master's degree and then, gets to move on and, just everything just goes peachy keen. I mean, I really started from the bottom and I did a lot of that to myself. And again, I want to talk about that in another video, but I did a lot of that to myself. A lot of it was just consequences of really poor decisions, which is why trying to help talk to, mentor young men now at this point in my life is a really big deal to me, because we can't always see the forest for the trees in our early 20s, and I'm trying to help guys not make the same mistakes that I did that really set me back. And fortunately, I married an incredible woman, and look at this. I married an incredible woman, and God was good to me along the way, of course, as well, and I was able to recover pretty well, I think, given the circumstances. But I started from the bottom. I spent a lot of time just trying to regroup and get my life right. And so I started really focusing on my family, on my wife. Her and I ended up having 4 beautiful inside and out daughters. And, sports cars just kind of became a thing of the past. I mean, when you've got 4 young kids and, we weren't ever poor, but, in our 30s, we didn't have a ton of money either. And, you just don't have room for a sports car, because if you're going to have one, it's got to be a third car, which, even to this day, it still is a third car. And if you're going to have one, my kids are 15, and I have triplets that are 15 and one that's 19, an older daughter that's 19. And so I still have to have a family car. Going over the Wrightsville Beach drawbridge here. I think we're going to go to the north end. We got to be careful going through Wrightsville Beach, though. They will pull you over for nothing if you're not really watching what you're doing. So we are going to be loud, but we're not going to be super fast. How about that? I tried lots of business endeavors. All of my stuff has kind of always revolved around creating content, whether it's producing podcasts, hosting podcasts, producing and hosting podcasts, back in the early 2010s, into, of course, YouTube started becoming a viable thing, and getting into that, this is not my only YouTube channel. I have 6 other YouTube channels of varying degrees of success. This is definitely not my most successful one so far, but I'm hoping maybe it will turn into that, because it's definitely the most fun. But, years go by, right? So that was 2003 when I blew the car, 2006 before I just got a really big wake-up call in life. And then, I had a Civic Si, if that counts, in 2009. I know the new Civic Si's are pretty stinking bad, but especially the Type R's, but the one that I had in 2000, I think it was 2009 or 2010, it was Torch Red, Torch Red was the GT. It was a red, though, that was similar to the Torch Red on my 2002 GT, but it was funny, my newborn daughter at the time thought it was Lightning McQueen, and that made me smile every time she would come out and want to ride in Lightning McQueen. But it was, again, just a little, 190 horsepower Civic Si. So, didn't really have a sports car for years. 2003 all the way to just now, January of 2026. So I went 23 years without really even thinking about a sports car, definitely didn't drive them, didn't have one. Let's downshift here and see if we can be a little louder. Come on, guys. I mean, we're doing 19 miles an hour in a 35. This is pretty right here, this bridge. It's the Wrightsville Beach Inlet. Well, hopefully they're not making a left up here. So my wife and I just celebrated, this past December, our 25th wedding anniversary. And guys, let me tell you just the miracle it is, the testimony it is to my wife, her hard work. She's done incredibly well with her career. It's a testimony to her hard work and her loyalty to me and to our family, and just a phenomenal woman. And we just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. We decided to take the kids down to Orlando to celebrate that. My parents took me and my 3 brothers and some of our spouses, some of us didn't have spouses at the time, to Disney World on their 25th wedding anniversary. And we wanted to do the same thing. So we took our kids down to Disney World and Universal, and then went over to Tampa for a few days. Guys, this van is going to be the death of me. Hopefully he'll turn soon. I'm sorry. I'll try and keep it loud, at least. We're barely moving, but we'll do some revs. So my wife and I are sitting out on the deck on our hotel in Tampa, overlooking the Tampa River there, and I'll try and throw a picture up here, of our little view there. We're sitting out on this deck, and we're kind of having a State of the Union conversation, which we do typically every year around our anniversary. I would recommend all you young guys in your marriage, take at least one. Yes, he's turning. Take at least one day a year. Anniversary is a good marker. Hold on. To just kind of discuss the state of the union of the marriage, things you've done well, things you haven't done well, things you want to improve going into the next year. It's just a great conversation to have. And I've been a little down. There's a cop right there, so hopefully he's not clocking people. Let's see here. He is not going to pull me, but we also have a trash truck. Somebody just doesn't want this drive happening today, I think. There we go. What's up, brother? So anyway, we're sitting out on the deck, and we're talking about stuff that I'm doing for content, talking about her work, and I pitched the question. I was like, hey, I've been filming a lot of cars lately, one of the other people's cars, and one of the issues I'm running into is that a lot of times it's just hard to get those guys scheduled, and so I have these giant gaps in my car channel content. And by the way, I've been filming cars since like back when I had the cars, like back in 2000, I was filming cars on like camcorders with mini DVs, and we were uploading our videos to private servers, and and then just like posting links on message boards. This was before YouTube was even a thing, and definitely before Google bought it. And I hope I don't sound too braggadocious in saying this, but I was way before my time in content creation. Man, cops are everywhere down here. He did not look at me though. Good gracious. But anyway, I'm behaving, boys. I'm behaving. So I was like, hey, what do you think? Like, we're doing, we've done, and again, a lot of it is just God has blessed us with my wife having just an amazing career, and a lot of things have just gone right. We've made just been on the right side of a lot of good real estate transactions, and so, life is very different for us now than it was 20 years ago. And I was like, so what do you think about me getting my own sports car so that I can do this car content and I don't have to be, relying on other guys, scheduling and weather and stuff. If I want to go make a video, I will go make a video. I promise I'm going to get on it at the end of the episode. So if you watch to the end, I am going to get on it. I promise. We'll do a nice pull, but I've got to get out of Wrightsville Beach. So you can just listen to the soft hum of the motor and me chatting it up right now. So I shoot my shot with the car, and she's like, okay. She was like, I'm not saying no, but I do want to think about this. And I went through all my reasons and all that. It was a long pitch that I won't bore you guys with, but that's a minivan, not a cop. But So we decided, about a week or so went by. We kept talking about it. We got back from Florida, got home here to beautiful Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, and Wilmington, North Carolina. And my wife, finally gave me the green light. She was like, you know what? Let's do it. Here's your budget. So I had a budget of about, I had a budget of about $70,000. Kind of one of the rules was that I had to pay cash for it. No financing allowed. First 6 months, I only got a very tiny little, 6 months of ownership, I get a very, very tiny mod budget, which is what I used for the AWE exhaust and the AMS cold air intake. You can tell how out of the loop I am. I just know that I did a lot of research and it was the best one. So, or at least people said it was the best one. So that's the one I got. And I've got a little bit more room, probably going to do some downpipes eventually. But she said, you know what, here's your budget. Here's your mod budget for the first 6 months, and let's see how this car content goes. So I go out and I start shopping, and as you'll notice in my current video of the different cars I looked at, I had kind of a list. I knew the top end would be Toyota Supra, and then I was kind of looking in this mid-range of the Nissan Z, the Mustang S650, and then obviously a little bit lower than that, I was looking at the Toyota GR86. And again, you can watch that whole video for all my deciding process through all that. But ultimately, I landed on the Z. And I just loved it. When I got in it, I loved the way it looked. I got in it. I even loved the way that it sounded, just stock. And got in it and just fell in love with this car as soon as I drove it. And yes, I've got an automatic. I know some of you are going to give me a hard time about that, and that's fine. I'm going to do a video very soon on why I chose the automatic. I actually have some very good reasons. And I actually have reasons that may not affect all of you. Like, I've driven stick shifts. All of my sports cars in the early 2000s were stick shifts. I know how to drive a stick shift. The automatic, for what I'm doing and how I'm using this car, the automatic felt like the right thing to do. I'm finally sitting at the dealership. I find this one, and there's a whole story about how I found even this specific Z once I decided on it, that I'll do another video on it as well. See, man, I'm just generating content like a madman here. And so I'll do a video on that as well. But I'm sitting in the parking lot in Raleigh. I drove, a couple hours. It was a whole journey to get to this car. And I get in it, and it's sitting on the, it's sitting in the parking slot. In the parking lot, and I go and I sit in it, and I sit down in it, just parked under the overhang there where the car was, and dude, I just started crying. And I'm a pretty emotional guy. Like I do cry. I cry in movies. I cry in TV shows. My wife and I are watching through Parenthood right now, and I cried in the episode last night. I am a bit of a crybaby. Typically when I cry, it's tears of like joy. But I can sad cry too, with the best of them, when there's something worth it to cry over. But I'm a crier, so maybe that's why I bought an automatic. Am I right? Yeah, right. Don't you try to make that joke. I already took it from you. So I'm sitting in the car, and I just start crying, and I like texted my wife. I was like, I don't even really understand the full reason I'm crying. Like this just feels odd. And what it was is, I think in just this single instance, I get in this car, and it's like such a long road of life to get here. I mean, I started from the bottom, guys. And I'm not saying this is some kind of Lamborghini and that I've arrived in some kind of super financial success or anything like that. I'm not. We are not wealthy by any means, but we do okay. That's why my budget was like top tier, was like Toyota Supra, can't go over that. And of course, we've got this cop right here. It's hilarious. Why is he even going off the island? Bro, you're supposed to be on Wrightsville Beach. This is the end of your jurisdiction right here, man. Come on. Well, anyway, so he's going to get in the way of my pull. But I promised you guys I'd do a pull. We're going to do a pull. Even if it gets all the way back to even if I get all the way back to the house to do it, okay? We'll get a pull in there. But it's like I had stepped into, this like portal of time where like the last time I sat in a sports car, life was a certain way. And now, like, I'm sitting in one again, and life is very, very different. I mean, there is some serious things that we have to deal with, sadnesses. We still deal with consequences from past actions, but life is just different now. It's just different. I wonder if that cop is looking at me right now. I wonder if he's looking at all the camera gear on my car and being like, I should just follow that dude around and ruin his day. But I think that this car, what really hit me was just what a journey it was to get here. How much life has just gone by. And, you know, it was like a time portal of measuring success and just blessing in our lives. And, you know, I love my life now, guys. Like, I have a great life. And I didn't think, whoa, buddy, should I honk at him? No, we won't honk. I didn't think that I would ever get here. We won't count that as the pull. Don't worry, I'll get you something better. I just wanted to make the light. See, boom. But I just didn't think I'd ever get here, you know. And being able to be here was just something special. So, whoop. Blip that downshift. Everybody's gonna make fun of me for that. That's why you don't drive a manual. You don't know how to shift. Yeah, that's probably true. I haven't driven a sports car in 20 years, guys. Cut me some slack here. All right, you know what? Let's go. Let's go left here, and then we're gonna get on it. All right. So we're gonna sit at the stoplight for just another minute. Okay, that was the longest light on the planet. All right, let's see what we can do here. I gotta watch that truck. Woo, okay. All right. Ha ha. Golly. I ain't gonna lie. That still makes me incredibly nervous doing that. Like, incredibly nervous. I've been out of the game for a while, my friends. I've been out of the game for a while. All right, well, you got the pull, and look forward to doing future content with you guys. If you enjoy hanging out with me and driving around, I'm going to be driving other people's cars too. I got a good friend with a GT3 that I'll be driving every now and then. Max, shout out to you, brother. Thank you for the offer on that. Got another friend with a Dodge Hellcat that I'm going to borrow from time. Ooh, look at that Porsche there. Beautiful. Old school. So, but yeah, hit me up with a subscribe, guys. This has been fun. Blessings.